I believe people stay in scarcity because they don't have a true view of self. I'm hoping it disrupts this mentality for people of that we just keep doing the same stuff because of how it looks. I just don't want fear to be the thing that leads people.
Welcome back to another episode of the New Rules Podcast. It's your girl, Breezy, and I am here with Mr. Adrian Crawford. How's your day going?
It's going well. It's going well today. I actually am spending time today with one of our clients at opening day, so it was really, really good. So I'm just excited to dive into what we're going to talk about on the pod today.
So lately, you've kind of been an AI master. Do you want to share with the people things that you've been doing with AI?
No, it's been really cool. I've been really focusing in on, with AI because I believe it has been something that, over the last couple of years I've messed with a little bit, but I think that of late I just have realized this is really where the future is going to go. I also think it gives us an opportunity with our business and things like that to actually begin to scale at a much faster rate. And so I just really want to not just, hear about it or have a doomsday view of it or some utopian view of it. I actually want to use it for myself. And so just been dialing in, learning about AI agents, learning about different other platforms, learning about what are the best platforms to use for certain things. So it's been really fun.
Something that we talked about a little bit yesterday, you mentioned how AI relates to having an abundance mindset and how we're kind of living in a cultural moment of abundance. Can you describe a little bit of what you mean by abundance?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that people are saying right now in culture, that we're living in the age of abundance because of, with artificial intelligence, the ability for, what if you're creating, an AI agent that can just run all the time, right? So it's one of those things to where you have this machine learning that can actually be working for you. So it gives you an opportunity for abundance. And so people believe that we're going to have more time. They're going to believe that, man, we have an opportunity to have more resources, more wealth, on and on. But as I think about it, I think the technology is awesome. And if technology can provide that for you, but I always think an abundance thing is not about what a technology can do. It's actually about a mindset, because you think about it, the internet, I think, gave us access and opportunities, but didn't everyone take a hold of that? The printing press gave people access and opportunity, but didn't everyone take a hold of it? I actually think abundance is not just only about the tech, only about the invention, but actually more than anything else, it's really about the internal mindset that you actually have.
Can you describe a little bit of what the difference is between scarcity and abundance?
Yeah, I think a scarcity mindset a lot of times is just that idea that there's not enough, right? There's not enough time, there's not enough money, there's not enough resources. I don't have enough intellect, I don't have enough emotional intelligence, whatever it is. It's always about I don't have enough, versus an abundance mindset is that there's enough for everyone. A scarcity mindset is, that mindset that you feel like you have to take from someone else, right? Because there's not going to be enough for me. An abundance mindset means that I'm willing to give things away because I believe that there's just more and more. And so I think that's the difference. And I think it all based down to an actual belief in a skill set and ability, the belief in humanity, that I believe human beings have the ability to create and to produce. And I think what ends up happening is that it's really interesting that when you have the difference between a scarcity and abundance mindset, you really do become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have a scarcity mindset, then you actually live in scarcity and you do have scarce resources. I believe when you live in an abundance mindset, meaning that there's enough for everyone, there's plenty that's out there, I believe you actually begin to attract more.
So what do you think are the key things that generate whether your starting point is that you have a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset?
I think some of it has to do with just maybe how you grew up, right? Maybe if you grew up and that was a reality for you, that it was scarcity, maybe scarcity of food, scarcity of money, scarcity of opportunity to go to different schools, or, having access to other things. I think so that can set your mindset. I think the parenting that you grew up with, that they have a scarcity mindset. So I think some of that is just actually just a part of just your environment that you grew up in. I also think that what begins to happen with the scarcity mindset is as you begin to go, what are some internal fears that you actually have? Because then I think fear many times hinders people from having actually an abundance mindset. Because what you tend to do is when you have a scarcity mindset, fear begins to make you want to hoard and keep, right? Because you're afraid of, if I give this away, or what if I give that to this person and that person outshines me, or that person gets more opportunity than I do. And so in that, what you begin to do is now you may not give that person, who's at your job, who who, man, you may give them a recommendation. You may not give them that recommendation because you're worried about what's that going to look like for you. Are they going to get the opportunity that you didn't get, or helping them on a project? I'm not going to help them because, if I help them, then what happens? They get a step up above me. And so fear gets involved in that. And so I think that's what a lot of times keeps us in having an actual scarcity mindset, is some of our environment that we grew up in, our own fears that are there. I think sometimes what we fail to realize, human beings can be very selfish too. I think that we naturally think humans are good. In my actual worldview is I believe that human beings are not. I believe human beings are broken. I think there's some good things we can do, but I believe human beings, our default is we want to hoard, we want to keep. And so I think that's all a part of the process of what actually creates a scarcity mindset. And once that happens, it just becomes a part, and it's just a gift that keeps on giving.
So one of the things that I have a trouble like wrapping my mind around fully is the fact that there's enough out there for everyone. Because like you talked about, you could be in a situation where you have the option of whether you're going to give somebody the opportunity or whether you're going to take an opportunity. How do you think through in the moment giving something up and truly believing that something else is going to come back to you? Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, yeah, but it couldn't.
No, I actually think that it's hard for people to have an abundance mindset. And it is true, because you could say, yeah, I could give something away and like not get it back. And I think in an abundant, I'm going to be really clear. I'm not talking about like you're going to be a millionaire, right? Or I'm going to talk about you're going to have all the power and influence in the world that you actually want. I think it comes down to understanding who you are. I believe people stay in scarcity because they don't have a true view of self. I think we all live in a world, especially here in the West, that we all look at whoever's the absolute best at whatever field there is, whoever is the best athlete in a specific field, the best entrepreneur, the best scientist, the best politician, whatever it is. And then we measure off of that. And then we don't think we're living in abundance if we don't have what they have. But everyone's not created equal in this sense. I think human beings are created equal, but we're not have equal talent. And I think that you have to have a true understanding of self. I've got a friend of mine who's a brilliant mind. And like, it would be unfair for me. I could have a scarcity mindset from like, man, I'm not going to give knowledge away because I've got to keep knowledge to be like him. I will never have the understanding intellectually that he actually has. Just like he will never have the emotional understanding that I have. I think being aware allows you to have an abundance. So here's how I can have that. I really do believe in the areas of where I'm good at that I can always produce. I believe that, for example, my idea of being able to help unlock people, right? Being able to help people get better, being able to help organizations think differently, solve complex problems. So for me, if a client doesn't fit for us, I'm willing to pass that off to somebody else. Why? Because I believe that I can produce and we can produce at a whole nother level. I believe that, here's a great one, speaking and communicating. I believe that I've been given a gift to do that. I used to always I would have certain ideas, even this idea of talking about AI and what I've been feeling about it. Sometimes I was like, man, I would have not have talked about this topic right away because I'm like, no, I got to wait for the right time, the right opportunity, because this is some great stuff I've got and it's going to be hit on the right moment and it's going to go viral and all those things. Versus realizing that there's always more. I feel like there's always a deep well of more information, more knowledge, more wisdom, more things I actually can communicate about. And so when I get something new, I don't not share it right away because I believe there's more that's there. I know people who will get something and they literally will wait to share it because they don't want it to, they're like, no, it's got to be for the right moment. I can't drop this on a Friday because ain't nobody going to listen to it on a Friday, right? It's got to be the perfect time. But I always believe that, man, there's always greater things that are there, especially within your skill set. So to answer your question, I think that it's understanding who you are. And then once you know who you are and you understand like your ability, it's being able to realize that you're going to have the ability to consistently keep producing in that area.
So to truly embody an abundance mindset, you also have to believe that there's limitations.
Yes, 100%. Because if you don't think you have limitations, what you'll do, you will outkick your coverage and you won't develop what you actually do really well. See, I think you can begin to create abundance when you know what you do well, when you start to learn more and more. And I get that. And that's a difficult thing because I'm a type of person, I like doing a lot of different things. And the danger for me sometimes is I can create some momentum in a lot of different areas. But as I'm getting older, the one thing I'm starting to get to is like, man, what are the things that I really can produce really, really well? Where can give them, have the most impact, provide the most opportunity with what I'm able to create. So anyway, I think that having a true understanding of self and being able to lean into that is very important, and knowing that you actually do have limits, because I believe when you understand your limits, but also you can flourish in the other areas as well.
I think something that we have similar is that we come from a charismatic background. And
Yes.
I'm a little bit different in that I come from like a very extreme Southern Pentecostal background. And so the reason why I even bring that up is because I have always been so hesitant for like the name it and claim it, speak it into existence abundance, because I grew up in the extreme of where it was so overused that the meaning became watered down. And so I just give some of that story to say why I kind of come onto the other end of it, where I'm like, okay, like tell me what you mean by that, even though I fully agree with how we describe an abundance mindset. And I truly believe that when you give power away and when you operate from the belief that you can continue to generate more, that you do gain more over time, even if you don't have control over what the more is. And to me, I feel like that can be my bigger problem, is like you do something good and you can believe that you're owed back a very specific thing. Does that?
No, it makes sense, because going back to the first thing you said, yeah, being, and for those who are familiar in the church space, charismatic means that, it's a lot of times the stuff you see where when we talk about extreme charismatic stuff, of what Bree's talking about, some things I've experienced is where it's this idea of name and claim, right? I'm believing for a brand new car, and, I'm praying to that even though I've not paid bills in like months, right? Or God's going to turn my lights back on even though I spent my money on lottery tickets. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things. And then people, if they've abused that, and I'm with you, where I've seen that abuse, right? And then I see people, and then sometimes it broke my heart, 'cause I see people literally believing for stuff, but they've never lived a life. And I always try to tell people, this is kind of off the topic, but I'm like, faith isn't just what I'm saying. Faith is literally my life in its action. It's in a direction. So I can say, man, I'm believing for this, but does my life and things line up to be able to receive that? So I can't just be out there living how I want to do. Say, I want to be, man, I want God, you to give me a bunch of money so I can be very generous. Well, if you're not generous right now with the very little, why would, I always say, why would God give you a bunch of stuff? Because you're just going to be as stingy as you are now. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't happen that way. I believe that in what they like to call the immutable laws of God, right? And one of those things is what we call seed time and harvest. What you plant, what you reap, we sow, right? You've heard that. We all heard it growing up. I think the thing is, though, is that a lot of times when we give something away, I think we expect that same thing to come back to us. And here's what it is. We have what we want to receive to return back to us. A lot of times when I've given things away, things have returned back to me, but a lot of times they're not what I wanted them to be, but they actually are things that are good for me. And I think that's the point. I think about when you're able to give, and it's not only what you do, but I've said this many times, not only what you do, but it's why you do it. See, we've been around people, and you've seen people who've given things and they've given it for the wrong motives and the wrong reasons. And you've ever seen sometimes they get it back, sometimes they don't. And then they're frustrated because their motives were off. I believe that when you give, you should give, or when you're willing to give opportunity, it should be for the betterment of others, not for, if I do this, I'm going to get this back. Because that becomes very transactional versus it actually being out of a goodness and a purity of our hearts and our souls as human beings to say, I want to help someone else get better. I'm going to give this person this opportunity. I'm going to be able to give this money here. I want to be able to give this knowledge away so it can actually help. Even us doing this podcast and all the different things we do, what is it? A lot of stuff we've done and the work we've done in this, we just giving it away. Why? We do our culture creators every week. there's a lot of knowledge and information people would pay me a lot of money for to actually do that and to teach that. But I give it away. Why? It's because, man, I want people to be better. I want people to be growing greater self-awareness, greater authenticity. And so I think it's not only what you do, but why you do it that really does matter. And I think that's ultimately what you're trying to get to, is this idea of why you're doing it. And then also us being okay with what we may or may not get back in that process.
Mhm. So when you walk into an organization, what things do you experience that tell you that a scarcity mindset exists there?
I think that when I walk into an organization, you begin to see how long people have been staying in the positions they're in. That's one of the first things I look at. How long have they been vice presidents or been managers or whatever it is? Have they had turnover at all? I start looking at their retention as well. Because if you see people consistently leaving, you see people consistently not moving up, that is a scarcity mindset that's there. You see a scarcity mindset that when people during down quarters, how they respond, or when the end of the quarter is coming or money's tight, how do they respond? Do they continue to really like lock in? But a lot of times what you see is them begin to, drive their employees, harder. They begin to now cut back on their, on employee benefits and all these things. And it's because many times you don't have that giving away, people moving, people trying to pull other people up. I can think sometimes a scarcity mindset is that, does the company have any growth type of desires? You know what I mean? Because when you don't, and you're just trying to play it safe, many times we just want to keep this kind of little bit of a market share. You can see a scarcity mindset in that.
How do you think that the rapid scaling of artificial intelligence is going to impact our perspective on abundance and scarcity?
I think that it's going to give people who actually are willing to use it well a great opportunity to provide. I think one of the things from an abundance standpoint, I think it gives people access and opportunity to build systems like never before at a very cheap rate. I think if you understand how to build AI agents, if you really are willing to do a lot of the deep work of building master prompts for your business or your organization, your nonprofit, whatever, you actually have the ability to really, for, let's say you're using, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you want to use, you have the ability to create AI agents that can consistently work for you. Where before you would have to hire a consulting firm, you would have to go out there and hire more employees to do all this data entry or whatever it may be. Now you can actually create agents that are that way. And so I think those things begin to realize, it could give people access and opportunities. I'm looking at us right now and some of the things that we're moving in, where we felt almost a year ago where we needed to pivot and start heading this direction. Little did we know how fast AI would scale. And with AI scaling, it is literally like playing right into the hands of what we felt we should do, because now we're going to have an opportunity to really build out an incredible project, an incredible product that we're doing right now that's going to help with our whole mission of launching 1 million authentic leaders into the world. And so that gives us a great opportunity, and that gets me really excited. That's an abundance thing. Now more people can have, I believe, self-awareness, have authenticity, and really live a life of human flourishing because of this. I also think on the other side, there is going to be the reality of a scarcity mindset, because any new technology, people always think it's only a certain type of people who have access to that. And there is truth to that. Those who come from maybe under-resourced communities may not have access right away. But I also believe everyone, if they can really be willing to do the hard work to lean in, they can actually begin to experience this. But a lot of people will let it go by. A lot of people will see it as just the Antichrist. It's the wrong thing, the mark of the beast, whatever they want to think about it. But I actually think that, I believe it's going to give us a lot of opportunity. And I will say this, the other part of scarcity mindset, that I think it'll do, everyone's worried about artificial intelligence limiting our ability to critically think, which it will. But I actually believe that if you are willing to do the hard work and you're willing to lean in, it actually can create even greater understanding and create greater critical thinking, because now you can begin to even expand your understanding, your view. And now, instead of trying to rush to be quick, you can think about things at a deeper level. And so I just believe it's a great opportunity before us.
Okay, so before you get into that last part more, We most of what we do exists within smaller towns, and when you exist within a bigger city, you kind of have the benefit of living amongst early adopters. That comes with its own stuff. But something that we face a lot is we deal with the pressure of slow moving, especially whenever it comes to technology, a lot of hesitations. And we have our own, like you just said, we do worry about, we have ethical concerns whenever it comes to AI. Um, when you are communicating, let's say, to the church space or within organizations, your perspective on the advancement of technology, specifically AI, how do you communicate that in a way that dismantles the fear?
I think the first thing I do, and I've gotten better as I've gotten older, I've had a little bit more empathy. When I was younger, I just think people were stupid. I used to be like, what's wrong with you? Why do you take so long? Why is it that it takes, especially say in the church space, like if the first thing we read about God on the pages of the Bible is he's a creator. And so if we believe everything flows from him, why are we not those who are adopting these things? Why are we so afraid of it? Why are we not have the right worldview and the right heart and the right perspective that we can actually take this technology and actually leverage it for the betterment of humanity? But we're always afraid of it, and we're always late adopters. I remember a couple years ago, sorry, I should say years ago, that there was I think it was a stat that like the church is usually like 20 plus years behind of like trends and things like that. And I believe that it used to always frustrate me. Now I get it because I believe that people have seen the negative, right? They've seen the negative of you think about the printing press when all those things start to happen. There was some positives. The Bible went out. People who couldn't read it could start to read it. Literacy started happening. But then there began a lot of other stuff that went out there. There began the idea, there began a lot of kind of dangerous rhetoric that now could be printed and put out there as well. So I understand the negative of when technology happens. And so the thing for me is the other part of it is that as I've gotten older, have always tried to, I've been slow. I've been an early adopter, but I'm early in the church space, right? Or in the faith space. People are like, oh man, but I'm like, dude, I'm like so far behind. They're just way behind. Now I'm just way ahead because I just have now had years of realizing when I kind of feel and sense something and I lean into it, it works out. So now what I do, I just really push it and I don't let people's fears or their whatever, or even here's the big one, their doubts of this technology and their views toward me to stop me from communicating that. Like we're going to be talking about, and again, I'm talking in the faith space, we're going to be talking about this in September, about this idea of AI and the impact it's going to have and faith and all this. Well, some people are talking about it, not a lot of people are talking about it, and they'll talk about it in a year and a half from now, a couple of years from now, whatever. And the reason why I'm doing it now is because though we live in what I like to call a secondary city, I believe that big cities are full with secondary city people. LA is LA, not because everybody's born in LA. Most of the best thinkers in LA were not born in LA. They were people who were born in in Edmond, Oklahoma. They were born in in Akron, Ohio. They were born in different places like that. Now, the atmosphere of LA turned into that. I believe that the future will be in secondary cities. People are leaving bigger cities. I believe that a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation can happen in secondary cities, but you have to break the mindset that's there. You have to break that slow growth. We don't want things to go too fast. We're going to turn to these other places. And so there has to be disruptors that are there talking on these things. And that's what I hope to do here is create things to where we're starting to move ahead. Like how do we start to get ahead with AI in the city that we live in and the idea of entrepreneurship before it actually gets there? How do we get there when it comes to university students where, again, universities are always slow to build, but we're going to try to get ahead of that. And again, going to other secondary cities as well, because I believe the future is there. And I also believe the future is there because when you go into those places, what you're able to do, you're able to create a culture. And once you create the culture, you own it. And so that's what I've seen over my life is that when you go create a culture, you can then own the culture. And what do I mean by own the culture? You can then build the culture and the ecosystem in a healthy way that does lead to greater flourishing. So I have empathy to people who are slow in it, but I still don't let their lack, their belief, their fears, whatever, stop me now from pushing what I know to be true about the future. AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be rapid. My whole thing is I want really good people who are good humans to be involved so we can help shape it for the betterment of humanity. Are people going to use it in a negative light? 100% they are. Are people going to abuse it? Yes, they are. But they've done that with every technology throughout human history. But it's always been the ones who are willing to step in, that are willing to go for flourishing of humanity, have made good things for it, from banking to hospitals to schools and universities and on and on. It's been because people were willing to leverage technology in a better way.
I don't think we need to say anything else. You're just kind of in your bag.
I'm sorry. I know.
No, that was good.
Lauren's over there like, oh crap, how am I going to cut all that?
No, that was good.
What do you think, Lauren?
I'm inspired.
I have a lot of questions.
Oh, there we go today. Let's go. Here we go.
Wait, can I rewind a little bit?
Yes, rewind. Go.
I'm like, yeah.
Back to scarcity versus abundance.
Yep.
Are we defining like the thing that we're deciding is scarce or abundant is like thought process, like having cognitive ability, having critical thinking? And I'm asking that because when I think of the scarcity of AI and what it could develop in scarcity is not critical thinking, though that is true. I'm thinking like, oh, if I have a job that AI can replace, that like the scarcity is like, okay, well, I'm a little bit nervous that my job can be replaced. And then like also moving upwards of the chain is like, oh, I'm going to keep me as the,
Yep.
I don't know, some C-suite executive is going to keep this amount of information to myself, because then at least I'm not expendable, but these people can be expendable.
Oh no, it's funny. This is what's really funny about the whole thing, is that no one cared, and this is not what you're saying, but like when they talked about, like, you think about factory workers, right? And then we start bringing robots and more automation in, and all those people, those who are up in the C-suite knowledge workers were like, yeah, you just need to evolve, right? Now knowledge workers, C-suite people, it could be, I mean, whatever, they now are freaked out. We're going to lose our jobs. Here's the thing. This is where it goes back to what we always talk about. We talk here about the idea of it's not about a job, but a calling. I think when people start to freak out about, well, my job could go away, yes, there's always a fear of jobs going away, but calling doesn't. Purpose doesn't. When you understand your purpose, you understand that the job is just a container. And so how you have to have an abundance mindset, you have to realize, what about this job do I really like? What made me really good at this job?
Well, I guess like the scarcity is not like, oh, I'm feeling fulfilled. Like, yes, it would be nice to feel fulfilled in my place of work, but more like, I have to pay my rent and feed my children, like those.
Yep, and that's where I'm saying, but it goes to, then you have to, a scarcity mindset. It's like, well, this job is going away, so what am I going to do with my life? I don't really have anything I can do. Versus when you have an abundance mindset and you begin to understand purpose, it's not about fulfillment. Fulfillment is a part of purpose. It's about actually understanding what you really have been hardwired to do, because now you know what? There are other opportunities out there for you. It just may not be in this container. That's the thing. There are going to be jobs that go away. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to have opportunities to work. It's more figuring out, man, how do I use my skill set now to do this, to go into a different industry? Because one thing people don't talk about, AI is going to replace some of these jobs, but you know what else it's going to do? It's going to create a lot more jobs. You know what else it's going to do? It's going to bring up some old jobs, because we're very far away from having like plumbers or, AI plumbers like crawling underneath, what I'm saying, like your house. But let me tell you this, there's going to be a need for that. And maybe for some people, they're like, man, they love to solve complex problems and and they love to work with their hands, right? Man, they may have an opportunity to go do that in some different things now. I think it's going to open up a lot more opportunities. It's just that why this is going to be so disruptive is because we have built and lived in a system that has tried to just make these like kind of everyone being a cog in a wheel. And now that market that we used to have doesn't exist anymore. So now our education system still does it. Universities still do it. They're building people, go work the C-suite, go work in a management job, whatever. But hey, go be a bookkeeper or whatever. That's great and fine. But though, it's the person understanding now with bookkeeping, not you being a bookkeeper, but what are we going to do to leverage AI for you to understand how to let AI be able to do a lot of the stuff you used to could do. We have to begin to help people understand purpose and calling. That's why I believe so much in what we do now. And I'm understanding why from a long time, I've been like where I felt like God had put me in this place to start doing this work is because of this moment, because jobs are going away, calling does not. I don't care what you take there. I understand who I'm hardwired to be. So that's why I don't have a scarcity mindset, because I will find a way. I will find a way in any type of, it's not about the job. It's about what I'm able to bring to that job. So you could put me working at Google. You could put me working in the NBA. You could put me in a high tech company. You can put me wherever you want. I'm going to figure it out because I actually know what my purpose is. And so I think that's why we got to help people now figure this out, because jobs are going to go away, a lot of them. And if they don't, people will get stuck because they've been so used to just, I have to go get a job, versus idea of having a purpose and calling will allow you to then channel that to different things. Does that make sense? You can push back.
It's hard to, like, because everything that I think of is like a situation that doesn't exist yet.
Yep.
But it's like, in theory, say like, for every 100 data analysts, you only now need one who is good at AI and trained in AI.
Yep.
So those 99 other people have to go find something else.
Mm-hmm.
Are you making the case that, like, I'm like talking kind of like for the sense of sustenance, not so much of like I'm feeling purposeful. Like, I agree that you can have purpose outside your job. Are you making the case that like you have to suck it up and just like get a job? Or are you saying, because like even like the things that you were just listing, like, oh, I could be in the NBA, I could be in whatever, like those are like coveted jobs. Like, if it was like, oh, I have to go work at Chick-fil-A, I'm 50 years old now.
Yeah.
Are you making the case that like that's fine?
I think this isn't, I want to be clear. I think so many times people compare, when we talk about purpose and calling, right? Yes, satisfaction does come from that, or, joy comes from that, whatever. But actually, when I'm talking about, I actually believe that when you are working from there, you do produce things when you're working out of understanding that. So you could put me at like Chick-fil-A. Here's what I do though. You put me working at Chick-fil-A, I'll be working at Chick-fil-A for about 6 or 8 weeks. In about 6 or 8 weeks, I'll be like leading teams. You know what I'm saying? I'll be this, why are we doing it this way? It'll be way more efficient. You know what I'm saying? I'll be having people excited to be there, because what happens, the idea of writing the rules, unlocking authenticity. Matter of fact, they'd have me at Chick-fil-A after about a year. I'll probably be leading their leadership development and somehow getting reported up to corporate or whatever. I think when you have so like data analysts, what about data analysts? Why did they like it? What about the job? I think what's being exposed to, Lauren, is going to be this part. People doing jobs right now that everyone just like went and just got a job. Well, this is a secure job, right? And they hate their job. They came, and you know what? And now it's, oh, this is a safe job. There's no such thing. So that's going to be exposed. And I don't mean to say that in a bad or negative light, or like I don't have empathy for people like that. But what I'm also trying to say is that, man, maybe this moment, if you have an abundance mindset, you can look at this as not as, oh my gosh, this is the end of my career. But maybe you've hated your job so much that now you're going to be forced to maybe go find something that you actually can enjoy. And maybe the things that you enjoy, that doesn't mean you're going to make $100,000, $200,000 a year. You may make $50,000, $75,000, whatever that number is. But man, every day you really love what you do. That could be, man, working in the gardening department at like a Home Depot, because you really like working and you love helping people build out their garden and understand that stuff. And you realize, man, but that's Home Depot. How am I working there? I was working as a data analyst for this company. But you're like, but dude, you freaking like doing that. You have joy whenever you at work. Anytime you ever show joy at work is talking about gardening. Why not do that? This is what I'm hoping. It disrupts this mentality for people of that we just keep doing the same stuff because of how it looks, versus actually realizing, man, we have one time on this earth. We live in the West. We do not live in a third world country. And so here's what I'm gonna say. Everyone talks about, well, you get the privilege of doing that because you're in the first world. Yes, I'm living in the first world. If I lived in the third world, I would have to adapt. But I live here. So because I live here, I have the ability to actually go do something that actually I enjoy to do. And I know people are saying, well, not everyone does that. Here's the thing. I think our jobs, or people who do have, is to give people access and opportunities to go do that as well, to create access and opportunities for people to go do that. We're not saying you're going to make $1 million, but what we can say, can you go out there and find something that, man, you just enjoy getting up to do every day? And all work is hard, but I'm also saying it shouldn't be where you work your whole life and you just hate it. You know how many people have done that? We literally have sold people this bill of goods for years. And our parents told us, go to college, go get a secure job. And we look at our parents and we're like, you hate your job. You're freaking miserable. But you're telling me, and then you get mad at me if I don't go to college and go into debt to go do something that you freaking hate. You think your job sucks, and you're going to have me do the same thing. I think this is a moment that can disrupt people's lives and give them opportunity and joy. I think it can, honestly, if people are really, I think it can suicide. I think some of the depression rates can start to drop, but we have to let people find purpose. Purpose is different than a job. Purpose is something I think you're hardwired to do. And that's why this whole thing of what we do and this category we're building out of human purpose development right now is so important. Sorry to go on that stump speech, but all right.
My next question, this is fast and forward, was two questions. One, how are you discerning between somebody's like hesitations and fears, or like a wise pause?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me think about this for a second. Like, how are you discerning between two of those?
Yep.
And then, can you also clarify, like what you were talking about, of like, people are going to use this badly, like, so we need to get ahead of it, whatever. I don't think this is what you are saying, but what I was hearing was like, kind of like scarcity mindset, like we have to get here first or something terrible is going to happen. And that feels like not the same kind of scarcity that we're talking about, but feels like a different kind of scarcity.
Okay, I'll answer your second question there. No, when I talk about like a scarcity or we need to get ahead, it's the fact of, man, we can be first adopters to a technology that can really help a lot of people. This is reality. There's going to be bad stuff done with this. It's just every technology through human history. It's going to happen. No, I actually want us to get there, whether if it's, and again, people who want to see humanity flourish, right? I want to get there because, man, we can be early adopters and getting people opportunities to flourish just way ahead. I mean, can you imagine getting ahead of it and using it instead of someone using it for like a sex robot, right? You know, it's like, well, what if somebody getting ahead and who actually can create a brand new system of how we can get kids better care, and even like, man, let's say being adopted, right? Having a greater database, pairing them with the right type of people, profiling people. You know, we hear so many crazy and tough stories of people who foster kids, and many times because there's not that many people who foster kids, it's a difficult process and all that. What if there's a better way that AI begins to create a system that makes it more fluid, makes background checks better, on and on and on, right? What if that happened? What if there's somebody who goes out there and they create something that's better with, like, man, to where you start to see pregnancy, say among women of color, because of some things created by AI that allows for more healthy babies to be born, so on and so forth. What if we could give access into rural areas, people giving a chance to learn more? I mean, I could go on and on about opportunities and, like, man, helping. And it's not only just about like social needs. It's like, what if there's a business that could be created by someone who grows up in Apalachicola, Florida, who loves to fish, right? But there's a greater way through AI of what they're doing. And again, I have no idea what that would be, but a tech that actually would take somebody who has lived below the poverty line that could give them a chance to flourish with new technology. This is what I mean by that we have an opportunity to allow for things to come forth that would allow humans to flourish because of this abundance. But a lot of times when I use, especially in the church space, we're always so afraid of, what is this technology going to do? Let's just wait. What is it going to do? And my whole thing is this. I think it's always about the posture of the human heart of why you're using it. Are you using it just for yourself? Are you using it for the betterment? I think when you are lining up for something for the betterment of people and genuinely for that, and not for your own fame or your own whatever, I always think technology can be used in a good way. And so I understand having a pause on it of like, man, how should we use this? I mean, we've had conversations around here. What does it ethically look like to use that? I've had to wrestle with this, man, as somebody who communicates and preaches, right? Let's use that one. Man, how do I use AI? Because you know what I could do? I could just say, hey, write this sermon about this. And I just get up there and do whatever. I think that takes away a reality of a connection and hearing from God, whatever. But I do believe it's made me become even more efficient. And may help me become more effective. And here's what the efficiency has done. It's actually allowed me to spend more time pondering my sermons, spending time praying more, because I've got all the information a lot faster. So it's made me a better communicator, but also a better Jesus follower. I'm using that because of the fact that I've leveraged it to actually get more like information that it would take me hours to have to research or send somebody else or somebody else on our team to go research it for me. And so I think it's just doing those types of things. But I'm all about, yes, you want to use wisdom in it. You have to know yourself, because some people can get lost in this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so, again, I think you want to have a pause to it. But on the other side of it, I just don't want fear to be the thing that leads people. I think so many times we have so much fear instead of like, let's step out there and try to do something.
I feel like in summary too, I would say that, and tell me what you think, it's not a scarcity mindset to be afraid that people are going to misuse AI. That's being connected to reality. Like, it's true that that's going to happen. It's true that it's going to be abused. It's the time that's gained back from it will be hoarded. The money that's gained back from it will be hoarded. Like, those things are going to happen. And I feel like we touched on that a little bit when we talked about the starting point of humanity. It becomes a scarcity mindset when you believe that even if somebody else hoards it, that you don't have the ability to use it well, and that you don't have the capacity to grow in your own ability in using it to create more opportunity both for yourself and others. And so I feel like what we're talking about is that there is a large sum of people who, in the rise of it, are afraid to learn how to adopt the skill themselves, mostly because of a misbelief in humanity, which is also a misbelief in their own ability to grow and the resilience that's needed to interact with a tool without it becoming violent. But I think that what we're talking about is the necessity and the courage that's required to be somebody who says, I'm going to be somebody who learns how to store this well, not only so that I can have more opportunity for myself, but because there's going to be a lot of people who maybe aren't going to know how. And so I'm going to create more opportunities so that they can also utilize it too.
Yeah. So I'll give you a great example. We have something that we've created here called Black Leadership Summit, where our whole thing is about how do we empower Black leaders who are trying to build multi-ethnic spaces, right? Because again, whether that's in business, in medical, or in the faith space. And so one of the things is that 2 years ago, when we did our first conference, we had a whole breakdown on AI. Chat GPT. Before, people just over the last year, Chat GPT has become like this big thing. We were doing that over 2 years ago. We brought somebody in. Why did I do that? Because what I want to do is because, for example, Black and brown people many times are slow adopters because they don't get access to tech like that. This technology, getting ahead of time, here's what it's led to. It's led to some people, let's say they are Black church planners trying to build a diverse space, and let's say in a college town, they're trying to reach the next generation, and they're trying to build a diverse church. That is the equivalent of jumping into the deep end. That's like jumping to the deep end of a pool with a weight vest on and like barbells in your hand, right? Trying to survive. Because you're talking about the people that don't have funding. You're talking about building multi-ethnic, a lot of times in the South, whatever. Here's what it's led to. So a lot of times you don't have the funding that you need. But by them using ChatGPT, it allowed some of our people to build systems already to where they would have to have volunteers and or hire staff people to do it. They wouldn't have the ability to hire a consultant, but they were able to create their own consultant, their own AI agent that was a consultant that helps them think through this. That's helped them flourish. That's helped their churches grow. It's helped doctors and medical grow. It's helped architects grow in what they're building. And so this right here is a way, and what you're saying is that, man, let's go after that and let's steward that well. Let's build it, because I think it can really help a lot of people. And I want to be someone who knows how to use it, because I want to use it so I can say, hey, here are the pitfalls of it. Here are the pitfalls that could be in this space or this space or this space. But I can't say that from the sideline. Everyone has all this fear about it and they just stay on the sideline versus saying, no, get in there, understand it, try to figure out how to make it work so that you within your industry can do it, and stop being afraid. Because here's the thing, jobs are going to be lost. It's no way around this. So it's like us telling, it's like right now, we had like a hurricane that came through, we live in Florida, so hurricanes come all the time. Well, here's the thing. It's like they can tell you a hurricane's coming. And you're like, nope, it's not going to come. Nope, it's just not. Like, no, there's a big hurricane in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. All right. I'm calling the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not calling it the Gulf of America, but the Gulf of Mexico, there's a big hurricane there. And you can think all you want to. It's not yet. No, it is heading in your direction. And there's no way around it. And that's why I feel like with AI. So it's like, what do? You prepare for it. You start preparing for when that hurricane's coming. You have to start preparing and leaning into this now. If not, you'll be left behind. And then what you'll do is you'll blame tech, you'll blame whoever for the reason why your job was lost, why you don't have these things, versus you have a chance right now to get ahead, start learning this stuff to position yourself. Can you imagine at your job right now that if you start working on this stuff, that when it does hit the market and you're already ahead of it, you're going to be one of the people able to keep your job, because people still going to have to run the stuff. Yeah, you may go from 50 people to 3 people need to run it, but I want to be one of those 3 people that know how to build those things out. So that's why I think this is so important.
So where do you draw the line? What makes it unethical?
I think what makes things unethical is when you don't, for me, is there's things where, you're using this to exploit people, like creating, going there and, people who are creating voice AI things that make them sound like someone's loved one and then scamming them. Deep fakes, videos that look like someone else and then they're scamming people. I think also just like, misinformation that gets put out there was politically, videos that get put out there that this person said this, and you're like, that's a deep fake, that the person did not say that. I think those are very harmful. I think other things, though, practically for me, that are unethical for me are the things when people are just like going in there and say, hey, Chat GPT, like, write my paper for me. And that's all it does. And you don't think about it at all. The reason why I want to be careful, I say it's not unethical, is because of the fact of like, it's not original. See, I believe in creation. I believe that ChatGPT can aid you. Just like, here's the truth about it. I've created so many different things. And let's use sermons, for example. Man, I had the aid of commentaries. I've had the aid of actual sermons that went out on via, like, whether if it was back in the day via CDs and tapes and all that stuff, and now that could be on podcasts, all that's aided me in becoming a better communicator. But if I just ripped off the person and just preached exactly what they said, that's not me creating. I think that's unethical. I think you need to create. I think human beings were made to create. We have the ability to create things. You can use this tool to jumpstart that. And so when you just go out there and you're just lazy, you turn in a report that's using language you ain't never used before. You turn a report, you got them stupid Chat GPT dashes in it.
The M dash?
The M dash.
The overused M dash.
Oh my gosh, I got that over there. As soon as I see that, I'm like, all right, big dog.
God.
You know what I'm saying? As soon as I see that.
I was about to say the most empty platitude ever right after that.
It is. And it's like, furthermore. You've never used furthermore in your life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. I think that's the part, because I think it's unethical and I think it's harmful, because what that's going to lead to is people not thinking deeply. I think that is the biggest, when I have any fear about AI outside of like, creating, Terminator robots. Besides that, the second thing I have a problem is people will lose the ability to critically think, because they will just let the machine think for them. And that is going to be a thing that we're going to have to address in our world. Transhumanism. What does it actually mean to be human? And what I'm going to be really interested is see how, again, I know we've talked a little bit more about faith today in Christian spaces, how they're going to respond to that. Because again, rightfully so, Christians took a stance against, when we talk about transgenderism, right? Totally get it. And I believe that. I believe that there's male, female, all that. And again, this is my personal belief. Okay. So whatever. But here's where the other side. But when they start talking about, you could put a chip in your brain, you could put artificial intelligence in your brain to help you do that, to think better, to maneuver better. And it's probably going to come from the right. It's because it's gonna come from right now the tech bros that are out there who all of a sudden now have become like right leaning when they were left leaning 3 or 4 years ago. I'm being interested how Christians respond to that, because what you're going to see is how much we're in the pocket of the Republican Party. Because what you're going to see is people aren't going to fight that. Well, this is making us better. It's making us live in greater freedom. It's a meritocracy. It's making us move and advance the American dream. Versus like, no. You now have to say there's no such thing. What does it mean to be human? And I think that's going to be so important. I think we cannot lose the ability to think on our own and to create on our own.
Okay, so we've talked about scarcity, abundance, tech utopianism, unethical usage of AI. What is the proper mindset in all of this? If you're speaking to the listener, they hear us talk through all of the potential problems, we talk about abundance. What is the place that you believe that they should find themselves?
Find yourself where you're at. Place yourself where you're at. And what I mean by that is everyone starts to freak out about the future, and we romanticize the past. I believe how you begin to anchor yourself in abundance is what's in your hands, what are you doing, and then how do you maximize what you have right now. So that does not mean all of a sudden for people, I've got to now go and try to be some AI prompter or AI agent builder for my new job. Maybe that's what you need to do. What I would say is like in what you're doing right now, how can you use AI? If you're a parent right now, how can I start messing with ChatGPT, whatever it may be, Perplexity, which gives you greater research, Claude, whatever. How do I use one of these things to actually say, man, I need to get a better schedule for my child right now? Man, be there. Be in that moment, because you know what it can help you do? You have access to the whole world right there. And you can even make it personalized for you and your child. You can talk about maybe your child's needs. Maybe they have some learning disabilities, whatever. Man, use that. Man, for the first time, you don't have to spend a bunch of money to go to some of the best specialists to learn, man, how can I better educate my child who may be on the spectrum? Man, I'm struggling right now with helping my child understand the value of finance. What can I do to build a program to help them understand that? I'm doing it right now with my youngest. I've told her, I'm like, hey, she graduated middle school. I'm like, once you do that, I'll let you have under control like TikTok, right? But I told her the only way you're keeping is you're going to learn about AI. And then I'm actually building out, what does it look like for a ninth grader to learn how to still critically think, but to really learn and leverage artificial intelligence, except for her just going to ChatGPT just to get answers for homework or whatever. Man, leverage it there. What about right now? What are some things in your marriage? Sometimes, man, you may be struggling right now in your marriage to have certain questions, or, maybe you've lost the ability to communicate with your spouse. And so you're like, man, how do I start this back up? Man, go in there, ask, man, what are some questions that you can begin to just, when you go on date night or something like that, man, maybe it's your friendships. What can it be a thing I can do to actually have a friend who likes this? Why are you laughing?
So I was just thinking about someone being like, if you went on a date with somebody and they're like, I got some questions from ChatGPT.
I know. I wouldn't, definitely wouldn't say that.
But take ownership. Act like you did it.
I know. But what I would say though, is that like, even, if you look at like your friendships, man, you can be a better friend. You can easily be a better friend, because you know what, man, I'm a verbal processor. So one of the things that's been super helpful for me with AI is I've trained my AI to sound like me, to know how I talk, what I do. So I'm a way better communicator than I'm a writer. So what this has allowed me to do, it's allowed me to verbally communicate what I think, feel in a creative way. But man, this has helped me to write it. So I've been able to encourage more people because of that. I've been able to clearly communicate and get things out there better because of that. And so, man, being a better friend. And I'm using these very personal things because that's your everyday life. It doesn't have to be like, oh man, like, hey, go build this new company, or hey, go build, this new system that deals with, supply chain. No. How do you use your right now? Because being present will anchor you. If you're in the faith space, man, I remember something you did that was amazing, where you're like, man, I wanted to create a Bible study on the idea of authenticity, right? That's what it was. And then you're like, this thing was amazing. You just went in and did that. And so now you can engage better in that. Maybe for you, workouts. Man, you don't have to hire a trainer now to do that. You can learn, you can build out your own program. You can do all of those things. Just be in the moment, be present, because that anchors you in, and then you begin to live in abundance. Abundance is not about power and money. That's not what it's all about. Abundance is about, man, being able to being healthy. Abundance is about, man, better use of your time. Abundance is about better reuses of maybe your resources, being able to give them away. Better uses of, man, what am I doing with my family and structuring that? Better uses of how I grow and learn. Those are all things of abundance. And so I think we have an opportunity right now, but we have to just be right here. We know there's going to be some crazy stuff that comes ahead of us. We cannot fear that. We have to be right here, and we have to begin to practice this and live that. And I think it can be something that can really, really help us. All right, guys, I hope today was actually helpful for you. And again, I know we jumped to some different things, but the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because our podcast is called New Rules. We are living in the greatest technological revolution that we've seen since the printing press. I believe we're living in the greatest revolution of identity since that of Darwin. And so right now, we have to be those who are on the forefront of this. We have to be New Rules writers who are writing things using artificial intelligence for the betterment of humanity. There are going to be plenty of people that use it for negative, but what I want to challenge us on is to be people who use it for the positive, to help people in their families, help people in their marriages, help those who work for you, help those who directly report to you. We have a chance to make humanity better. Let's be those who don't look at this as something from a scarcity mindset, but from something that's an actual abundance mindset. Until next time, keep writing New Rules.